Hello. 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 Good afternoon.
Yes, we can hear you, Isaac. Please
Yeah,
go
I can
ahead.
hear you
Please,
now.
thank you.
I can hear you better now. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very sorry. I got cut off for a while, for a bit. So my name is Mr. Inweze Ifeanyi. I believe that I've just been introduced already. So you all are welcome to this very beautiful webinar, and I hope you guys enjoy the best of it. So I'm going to go straight into why we are here, and I'm going to be addressing the cyber threats landscape. So this is basically the Nigerian business reality. This is what we face at this particular time. This describes how bad things have become at this particular time. Well, in the space of from the last 5 years, like it's written here, the Nigerian organizations have faced about 3,700 cyber attacks in a week. That breaks down to about 500 attacks per day. And just the financial sectors, they are the major targets of this attack, of these cyber attacks. And they have faced over 4,700 attacks per week, which is broken down to about 630 something attacks per day. Well, to show you how bad this has become, the Nigerian cyber space, we rank number 5. That's just behind Russia, behind Ukraine, behind China, and behind United States. We rank number 5 in the cybercrime index. This will make you understand that there's been a very huge decay in the cyberspace, in the Nigerian cyberspace. There has been a very huge decay in the Nigerian cyberspace. So even organizations that have a huge cybersecurity backing still face these challenges. When we talk about a huge cybersecurity backing, we are talking about organizations that are well funded. So this basically is not a case of finance. Organizations that are well funded face these challenges. Please, let's go to the next slide so I can address this quickly. In the last 5 years, we've had challenges that have faced big organizations. In 2023, Flutterwave, which is a very big fintech, they had a challenge. They had a breach which cost them in 2023 about 2.9 billion in losses, and this also repeated in April 2024, which cost them about 11 billion naira in losses, totaling to about 13.9 billion in just losses. Then we have Momo Payment Service, which is owned by MTN. They also experienced such breaches around 2022 after their launch, and I think they made about $53 million in loss. So I'm stressing this because it's not about the financing, because a lot of big companies, a lot of big organizations, both private and both public, have faced these challenges. Sometime in 2022, Patricia, we should know Patricia.com, they also faced a breach which had to do with customers' investments on their trading platform, and it cost them about $2 million. These are private sector that have faced these challenges. Then we also have public sectors like NIMC, the National Identity Management Commission, that was infiltrated, and a lot of users' information were captured and used for different illegal purposes. We also had a challenge with National Bureau of Statistics, where they were also attacked. Their portal was attacked, and a lot of informations, those were malware attacks, and a lot of informations were also leaked. So in the past 5 years, a lot of breaches have happened in the Nigerian cyberspace, and a lot of organizations have been affected. Even the Lagos State Internal Revenue Service their portal was also affected sometime in 2019, and they had major losses from that. So these are some of the cases we faced in the financial institution, both public and both private financial institutions we faced in the past 5 years. So these cyber crimes actually cause a lot in terms of business challenges, in terms of customers' investments. So it's very necessary that we stop treating it like a mere attack that just happens and we just shove it away. It has caused a lot of damages in a lot of major businesses and a lot of major organizations. So in regards to this, the bodies that handle or that manages cyber attacks or cyber crime in the Nigerian cyberspace have placed regulations to make sure that these organizations are being guided in regards to regulations and rules that guide them, or things they are supposed to do to comply with. These are proactive measures that will enable them comply and stay in check to avoid some of these attacks. So the CBN have placed some cybersecurity frameworks for DBMs and PSBs. So DBMs are basically likes of examples of DBMs are microfinance banks. Examples of DBMs are commercial banks. We call them deposit money banks. These are commercial banks. While PSB, we call them payment service banks. These are likes of the Airtel Smart Cash, the likes of MTN Momo service. So the CBN has placed a framework that will guide them. Some of these frameworks include self-assessment, annual cybersecurity self-assessment submission, which is required to be submitted by February 28th. There's an incident reporting to CBN in 24 hours. When there's a cybersecurity attack, it's required that in 24 hours, the incident should be reported to CBN. And there's also the need for an appointment of a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer. It's very mandatory for both deposit money banks and payment service banks. Then the CBN also placed requirements for OFIs. OFIs are other financial institutions. Other financial institutions are likes of mortgage banks. We have mortgage banks, and we have likes of mortgage banks. Yes, so those are other financial institutions. The CBN have placed a requirement that there should be an annual security report submission by at least 31st of March. There should be a risk-based security framework, and it's also necessary to appoint a CISO in every financial institution. Then we have another body, which is the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. The Nigerian Data Protection Commission has also made a requirement that in less than or within 72 hours of a breach, they should be notified. The Nigerian Data Protection should be notified so they can take note of this breach and they can act accordingly. Also, it's being required that an annual audit report filing for organizations processing data. Once you're processing data of 2,000 and above, you should have an annual audit report on or before March 15th. So all these are regulations or requirements that have been placed to guide organizations. There are proactive measures that have been put in place to guide organizations to prevent cyber attacks. This is simply because they understand how extreme these attacks have eaten into our Nigerian cyberspace. So these bodies have placed in measures to curtail this challenge. So going to the next aspect of it, the next slide, we are talking about the industry-specific threat landscape. Now we have various industries and we have how they have been attacked or how they are attacked. So this slide breaks down this industry. We have the financial service, we have the healthcare, we have the logistics, and we have the public sector. This model talks about how these sectors have been attacked. In terms of the financial services, they are basically attacked by banking malware. They are attacked by malwares that are used to steal information, steal one-time passwords, steal users' data, and they're also attacked by ransomware. Ransomware are like viruses that are being placed into a system. So they will close your data, they will close your system, and they will demand a sum of money from the end users or from the organization before they get to reopen your system. So in the financial services, the financial organizations are the major persons that suffer from these attacks. They are the major people that suffer from this attack. We also have the healthcare sector. The healthcare industry have been attacked by ransomware also, where their data are being locked up and requested for funds for ransom before they will be open. Then we have cases of phishing, where they send links to emails and maybe ignorant users get to click these mails. They use these means to get your information, to get your password, to get your data. So it's very important that trainings and information are being passed to users so that users in an organization can understand the importance of phishing, ignoring all these links that are being sent to your emails, especially links that you don't know where they originate from. So another aspect of the healthcare is the inside threat. Most times when it comes to cybersecurity, we always have this issue of insiders. Most of the cyber attacks don't just happen from one end. They are being done as a collaboration. Most times they always have inside threats. So those are part of the threat landscape in the healthcare sector. So when we are talking about the logistics, we also have email compromise. When you have, let me say, a software that you use for your logistics. You have a software used for your logistics. So sometimes they compromise those software so they can manipulate the fundings that come through and manipulate the way bill that goes through the logistics. They also have, in regards to the logistics, that's what I just spoke about. You also have payment fraud. When they hack or they bypass into your portal or into your software, they manipulate it and they commit payment fraud. They also attack the supply chain. Basically, when you supply items to end users, they can divert those items. We have issues that happened sometime last year or last 2 years where some people attacked a club. They attacked a club and they transferred the money that was meant for a player. They cloned an email, and the money that was supposed to be paid to a football club for a player, they diverted it into their own personal accounts. So all those things are the issues we face. There are issues we face from these attacks, from email compromise. When they clone your email, they compromise it and they manipulate these things, they manipulate these fundings into their own personal accounts. So we also have this issue, just like I spoke about. I spoke about NIMC earlier, and I spoke about the Lagos State Inland Revenue Service. That's in the public sector. We have issues of the ransomware, where they can lock up your portal. We also had that issue sometime last year. We had that issue in CAC, where they attacked the portal and they requested ransom sometime early last year for the sector to actually give them some funding, some money for them to release those informations. So those are some of the challenges we face in the public sector. We also face challenges of data exposure and service disruption. Public sectors like cases of CAC, where they attend to millions and thousands of persons weekly. When such disruptions happens, it affects lots of businesses. It affects lots of businesses, and because of this, they are forced to pay those ransoms to these hackers, to these criminals, to enable them open the portal or open their website so they can fully function again. So finally, I'm going to address. We can go to the next slide, where I will talk about the healthcare ransomware crisis. But I'm trying to be brief, so I won't take a lot of time, so we can meet up with the timing we have at hand. And we also have an opening to ask questions, so I don't want to take so much of our time on this section. So we also have cases of the healthcare ransomware crisis. Globally, 27% of all cyber incidents globally are ransomware attacks. This is what I just addressed, that a lot of attacks happen through ransomware, where they lock up your data, they infiltrate your system, they steal your data, or they lock up your system and they request for some amount of money. They request for ransom before they give out your data. Just like how GT Bank, their domain was attacked sometime this year, and their services was disrupted, and it was a ransomware attack because a lot of money was requested from them. Before that, their domain name, gtbank.com, would be returned back to them. So it cost them a lot in their business. I think they ran into losses, they ran into millions of dollars. So majority of the cases we have in the healthcare sector are actually ransomware crisis or ransomware attacks. It's also noted that 52% of healthcare breaches attribute to malicious actors. Malicious actors, these are like hackers, these are scammers, these are a group of people that connive together to create these crimes. Most times it can be both, like I said, it can be planned by insiders and the malicious attackers, because they always have information from the inside. So some of these attacks are being made by malicious actors who are the scammers, the hackers that infiltrate these systems and cause these damages. So about 52% of the healthcare breaches are attributed to malicious actors globally. Then the average of 86,000 people are affected per breach. So whenever these breaches occur, an average of 86,000 persons are affected per breach. So I'm also going to address social engineering and phishing attacks, business email compromise, ransomware with double extortion tactics, inside threats, and lack of cybersecurity awareness. So in this sector, I'm going to start from the inside threats and lack of cybersecurity awareness. Now, some of the major challenges we have with cybersecurity is actually lack of proper information and proper training, because cybersecurity has a lot to do with self-awareness. It has a lot to do with the users. So you can be working in an organization, but you might be ignorant of some of these things. You might be ignorant of, maybe you're making use of your phone, you connect to public Wi-Fi's, you click on unknown links. So when you are ignorant of cybersecurity attacks, you create a lot of problem for your organization. So sometimes these inside threats might not even be intentional. These inside threats might not be intentional. They might just identify you as a person that works in an organization and just send you an email. And out of ignorance, you might click it because it's a cloned email. It might look like an email from your boss. It might look like a work email, but it's cloned. Then you click on it, and they get access to your password. They get access to your information, and they can use that to cause problem for your company. That's why most companies, most banks, they use PINs. They use two-factor authentications. They use extra measures to make sure that that breach, that issue, just in case of ignorance, that issues, those openings are closed, are reduced. So most times it's very important that there are trainings, there are information that to users of, or maybe insiders, people that work in these organizations, to make them aware of these cybersecurity attacks. Then I'm going to go next to the ransomware with double extortion tactics. Just like I explained, I've said this severally, that when your data is being stolen, then they request for ransom. Maybe they steal your data, or they lock they lock your portal, they request for ransom for them to give you back your information. I'm going to make it very plain. I'll give you an example of maybe you have a Facebook account and your Facebook account is being hacked, your password is being changed. Then the hackers, the scammers will reach out to you and inform you that they need a particular amount of money for them to give you back your account. But let's assume that account is a business account and it services thousands of people. You might be forced to pay them that money because what you make from that account or from that brand is way beyond what they're asking you. So you see, they might use this measure to extort money from you severally, not just one. They can do it severally to extort money from you. So we are talking about business email compromise next, which is the cloning. Sometimes they can clone emails and send you emails that look like, they can send you emails and the mails will look like an expected mail. Just like I talked about a football club, that their email was cloned and the transfer that was supposed to be made for a club was diverted into an account of these malicious actors. So I'm also going to address the social engineering and phishing attacks, which we've talked about before. That's sending of, that's phishing, that's sending of emails, links. Sometimes you can be on your social media, you can see adverts, maybe all these advertisement that has to do with getting things very cheap or free download of something, and you click on it and it basically causes these issues. It causes these issues, causes this damage. They use those measures to extort or extract your information, your password, your OTPs, and they ask for ransoms. So lastly, I'm going to address the specific concerns we have in Nigeria as at now. And there are just three. I'm going to be brief about them. We have challenges, rapid digitization of the healthcare services outpacing cybersecurity improvements. We have insufficient cybersecurity infrastructure and training, and we have budget constraints limiting security investment. Budget constraints limiting security investment have to do with the financial provision. Most times, in most cases, there are no proper financial funding available in the healthcare sector to tackle these cyber attacks. When it comes to cyber attacks, there's always a saying that since the hunter has learned to shoot without missing, the bird will learn to fly without perching. It's very necessary that there are proactive measures being taken. We don't have to wait for attacks to be made before you start using reactive measures to resolve these issues. From the onset, there should be financial provisions made, there should be budgets made, so that they can be drills. They can be drilled from time to time, just like military drills. They can be drilled from time to time that is going to prepare for these attacks. And when these attacks come, there will be ready measures to combat them. So I don't want to take much of our time. My time is long spent already. So I'm going to stop here. If there's provision for me to further speak, I'll speak going forward. But for now, I'm going to stop here and let Mr. Davis take over from here. Thank you very much. So Mr. David, over to you, sir. Hello, Mr. Nelson. Can you hear me?
So yes, I can hear you, Isaac. So I think we have finally worked out difficult to hear David. So I'll just take it up from here. Thank you very much for the interesting delivery of those sections. Of course, what is up next is to talk about the proactive measures that we have. But before we do that, I would like us to look at some very pertinent questions. Please help us with slide 4. There are some very important questions that that sorry, slide 4, where we have the questions. So on slide 4, we have some important questions that pertain to this particular webinar. So these questions are not the everyday questions that you get. I mean, there are a lot of cybersecurity webinars that you can attend, but this one has to do with this webinar. This webinar is basically about auditing and security fixed or merged together. So if you're on this webinar, it means that you'll be getting a lot of information on how to stay audit ready. So I'd just like you to just get yourself prepared in the sense that as you are listening to what we have to say on this webinar, I'd like you to ask you, starting about these questions. If auditors arrive today, would you pass? Like, is your organization, are they audit ready? Can you produce your incident response plan in 5 minutes? This plan obviously already tells you what to do if your house is on fire, if your business is on fire. It should be well detailed to the T. Do you know who has access to what data right now as you are speaking? Can you say, okay, Mr. Okeke is the person in charge of this, he has so and so access to so and so data? When was the last backup tested for restoration? Or you just back up every week and every month and it just stays there, you don't test them, you're not sure if they're actually still very, very, very useful. Anyway, let's go back to the proactive measures. But while we are speaking, I'd like you to think on these 4 questions, because they are basically what you need. They are the take home. If you can answer those 4 questions by immediately, then it means that you are actually set for an audit, right? It means that you are actually set for an audit or for an end of the year audit. So back to proactive approach. Just pick it up from where Isaac already spoke on. He mentioned that there are some challenges, and among them he mentioned them around budget constraints. He also mentioned reactive versus proactive approach to security. And if you must understand, you all know that any money you try to save because you feel that cybersecurity is too expensive, most times when you get hacked, when you get affected, when you get breached, the money you will spend or the effects of the data breach is usually a lot more than you would have cost to actually safeguard your organization. So the challenge is obviously there. There's a financial challenge, obviously, because people tend to decrease IT security budgets. And then whenever it is presented, management may see that it's not actually promoting business. So why should they spend on it? So that challenge is there. Now, to answer that, we have what we call a risk-based approach. So the risk-based approach basically tells you how to actually quantify, how to basically qualify your risk. And there are 2 major methods, which is actually what managing or quantifying risk, which is basically the quantitative method and the qualitative method. And based on the CBN requirements, there's annual risk assessment that can be done on your organization, not audit, but risk assessments. Then there's also need for you to document your risk control. So when you do that, you need to assess your organization and know exactly where you're actually lagging behind. So of course, some of them will involve you putting down the numbers, which is the quantitative method. And the others that will just tell you, okay, based on the level, is it high, medium, or low, which you call qualitative assessments or quick risk assessments. Now, with this, so it's actually advised that you do both qualitative and quantitative risk assessment so that you can have a good understanding of where your organization stands, right? And in terms of managing risk, we have to look at what we call governance structure. Now, governance structure involves board level oversight. So it's not a matter of it's an IT team, technical person that will handle it. No, governance involves board level oversight. So whatever you are preparing as a CISO, as a technical manager, as a security, whatever, you need to be able to work hand in hand with the board, right? So that's why we are saying that you need to also so by extension, you need to also involve a CISO, appoint a CISO who will manage the process, and then of course now give the same instructions to the security team who will manage this whole process. So we can have what we call an IS steering committee that manages this whole process. Next slide, please. So now let's look at some of the KPIs that we should be looking at when managing or preparing for an audit. Now, look at governance metrics. Now, I mentioned earlier on that you need to involve the board, right? So, of course, this involves you having security briefings, meetings every month, because of course, it's board meetings if you done monthly, while your security teams, of course, will meet daily, right? So, of course, you already appointed the CISO and the steering committee. These things have to be in place as basic. Then technical metrics, how do you measure what's really going on? This is where your technical team comes in. So your IRT, that is incident response time, your part management compliance rates, your MFA compliance percentage. How many persons in your organizations actually is actually compliance with MFA? Is it 2%? Is it 3%? Or is it only admin and IT that does MFA? It should be a standard operating procedure that every account you create should have an MFA by default. Compliance metrics. Now, how well are you compliant with regulations in your domain, where you sit, where you work, where you do business? So for us in Nigeria, there's annual cybersecurity self-assessment completion, breach notification as required by the NDPA, 72 hours, and then third-party security assessment. So it's not just the internal person that you do business with, but also your business. So your vendors, what they call third-party risk. So how do you assess, do you vet them before you onboard them into your organization, or you just don't just buy something, you just buy. There's no process for vetting. So then also, how often are your employees trained? So let's even talk about the training a little bit. I read somewhere that you can train your employees on cybersecurity. You can do all the work, give them weekly and monthly assessment and all those things. Those things, they are good. But when it comes to actually ensuring that cybersecurity work in an organization, it goes beyond training. It has to be a culture. So you should move beyond just doing security awareness training to actually having a culture of cybersecurity in your organization, where people, everything they do, it's based on the fact that they understand that it's not about the IT team, that we can be hacked because of anybody's mistake, anybody's carelessness. You get. So when it's a culture, when everybody understands that, okay, this is how it should be done, this is the reason why we do this, then yes, you will see that your organization will grow better and become more security aware. Then of course, your simulation test that you run every other week, how is it panning out, right? Are people falling into more phishing scams? Are they falling prey to that? Your incident response drill, how many people are participating in it, and what's the outcome? Do they follow what you already documented? Next slide, please. Or are they just reading it in theory? Or your IR, is it just in theory? Now let's look at it in reality. Current confidence versus reality gap. What are we actually experiencing? If you from the stats, we see that there are a lot of organizations that are actually confident. We have 50% of organizations leaders that are confident in their cyber resilience. We have 78% of IT and security decision makers confident in strategy. They are sure that what they are doing is working. However, we see that more than one third of companies haven't instituted risk management efforts. So the question is, if you've not been able to put in the right work in terms of risk management, ensuring that you actually checked out the risk using the methods that we mentioned, quantitative and positive, that managing finances, how much putting money values to the risk. Okay, and the issue of no using MFA, what can really actually happen if we don't have MFAs by default? As simple as not turning off your laptop screen when you leave, when you are not your system. As basic as that, what can really happen? Okay, somebody can actually see what you're actually working on, and an employee, set that trace, can see see access to privileged information, and then use that. You get those that they may appear simple, but have you put a money value to those things? What can really happen? Now, what's the gap like? 25% of companies made cyber resilience improvement 2024. 42% of businesses experience attacks after implementing additional repressing measures. So we can see that when they react, they actually spend more than when they actually was defensive by actually was planning ahead of time. Next slide, please. Now, let's look at some. I've already mentioned over and over again that so we can't discuss the level of cyber resilience or cyber without involving the board. In fact, as a matter of fact, the board is ultimately responsible for whatsoever happens in an organization, right? So the fact that they either approve a policy and ensure that it will be implemented or not, that already says a lot about them. So because we know that there are four ways of managing risk. You can either avoid it, you can either transfer the risk and all that. But the fact that the board does not either approve a policy or doesn't about a particular risk that was shown to them, or it means that they already made a decision. So you're not doing it about it means that you're trying to say you're not doing it about it. You're not doing it about that particular risk. So if anything happens, they automatically take responsibility for it. Let's see one of the responsibilities that board levels should be involved in. Now, they should incorporate cybersecurity as a strategy, as a culture. Like I mentioned earlier on, security awareness training is not enough. Doing IRT drills is not enough. Do people understand why they should turn off their screens when they're not with it? Do they want to see the reason why they should have two-factor authentication? It's just them, IT is stressing them. If they see that as a stress, then they don't have a buying, and that means that they won't take it seriously. Circumnavigate it any chance they get, instead of saying no, I should do it because this is how it should be done. A culture. Now, how often do they also regularly update cybersecurity reviews? How often do they look at what they have currently? Do they also approve annual cybersecurity budgets? What is the compliance rate with CBN frameworks and NDPA requirements? The Nigerian Code requires that directors must provide oversight over supervision of IT governance, right? So it's not an IT thing. IT governance involves the board, and that it is part of their responsibility to ensure that everybody, including the board members, act in the best interest of company and stakeholders, ensuring that cybersecurity is included, not something that is being added. Now, directors are personally liable for failure to exercise proper oversight. Like I said, that they don't do anything alone means that they already committed themselves into saying that, okay, we are not going to do anything about this risk. And there are also regulatory sanctions for non-compliance in any regard. For instance, not taking consent per person's data, for instance, not managing people's data as you've actually said you will manage it, doing otherwise with those data. So you have somebody's email and phone number, and then for instance you are selling it. Meanwhile, you said you want to just use it to actually run one or two things, and then you're actually not selling that data. So it should also be understood that there is reputational damage that can affect all stakeholders. Next slide, please. So that means that they should keep in touch. What is the latest in terms of compliance regulations in their own sector, manufacturing, finance, and all that. Now, what are the investment considerations that we should look at? I already mentioned earlier on, I've not even gone to this line. I've mentioned that, okay, there's what they call cost of inaction. So you can't say, oh, I won't do anything. Well, what will happen? How much money do we have? How much data do we have? Our data is everywhere anyways. No. Single data breach can cost millions in direct costs plus indirect losses such as reputational damage. Economic fines. You cannot mention the number of companies that have been fined. I mean, our first speaker, Isaac, already mentioned that there are so many fines. Momo, Flutterwave, a lot of fines everywhere. I mean, both fines and losses. Customer churn, because I feel that my money is not safe with a particular financial institution or health institution, or my data is not safe with them, I won't go there. So customer signs up after 2 weeks, they hear that, okay, you've been breached. They leave because everybody wants to feel safe. Recovery time. When you lose your reputation, it takes a lot of marketing, a lot of process, a lot of actions to actually build your reputation back. And you are seeing 2 to 3 years to rebuild reputation. Sometimes you may not still get it the way it was from before you lost your reputation due to data losses. So now what's the cost of proactive security? One, you implement a framework Initial investment is required, obviously, but usually very low compared to reputational damages that happens when you are hacked or when there's a breach. Annual maintenance, ongoing operational costs is still very low from what we've seen, from what we've implemented. We've seen that it's actually very low compared to what happens. Training programs. When you build cybersecurity as a culture, periodic assessment. So when you have external audit, all of these things they cost money, but you cannot compare them with reactive measures like what we've seen when we don't do anything. When we just say what can happen to us. What are the ROI factors that return on investment? What do we gain when we choose to be proactive? Regulatory compliance avoids fines and sanctions. I mean, you just that money, that 500 million that you have spent, you can use it for something that maybe out of it you would have spent maybe 50 million. You keep your 450 million, use it and run all that important part of it, use it and grow your business or invest, you know, grow your base. Customer trust. I mean, when your customer trusts you, they want to they will refer your businesses. 500 referrals, 10,000 referrals from your customers. There's multiplication on your business. You grow, you expand freely. They preach your business like they preach the gospel. Operational resilience prevents business disruption. When they are hacked, your business is in pause mode. And when your business is in pause mode, you lose money. You lose money. Competitive advantage. Obviously, when you show compliance, you can boast, you can mention it whenever you are pitching for businesses, and you always come out on top. Now, what are the key takeaways here for us? One, ensure you are compliant with CBN requirements. There are basic requirements that CBN wants from you. Ensure you are compliant. Collect data that you need and consent to every data. Ensure that when you collect the data, you use it for only the purpose for which you collected it. And afterwards, you delete the data. You don't keep data for no reason. You meet NDP obligations. What those obligations, what do they require? We are still talking about the basic things, such as ensuring you have consent for you collect data and you use it for what is supposed to be used for. You expunge data when you no longer need them. Build your audit ready documentation. You don't wait for audits before you don't wait for audit before you actually build documentation. Have it ready. Like I mentioned, if you can you have an audit today? If you have an audit, can you be audited today, like today? If you say no, I have to wait for another, I have to prepare, the means you're not ready, and that means you can easily be hacked. Start continuous monitoring. You know, how do your systems, all your lines of defenses, your laptops, your networks, how are you ensuring that they are monitored, they are on point? Use managed IT services, managed security services to ensure that you can have a pane of glass to see what is happening, who has access to what and when, who is doing what. Very important. Then engage your board. Cybersecurity is not only for technical guys. It's not for only the technical manager or the security engineer who is writing code or the LPT, designer presentation test. No, it's for everybody. And don't forget, if the board does not see the ROI, does not see return on investment, they will not spend the money, they will not give that approval. They just see that it's a waste of money. Meanwhile, what we've already shown you already shows that proactive measures always wins reactive measures. Reactive measures, it comes out fatal. You don't want to be running eta when you have been hacked. So what should you do this week? What should be your plan this week? Go and assess your current states in respect to CBN requirements and the NDP as well. Go and check where are you? Where are you falling short? Identify your most critical compliance gaps. As you are doing that, where are we? What can you say? This is high for us. Those ones that I say that those are the ones you start working on immediately. This month, appoint and confirm your CISO if you have one, especially if you're a financial institution. Appoint and confirm your CISO. Very important. Develop and commence a 3-month action plan. That should work hand in hand with your own organization. Engage a consultant. That's what we are here for. If there's a need, if you notice that you don't have the technical requirements to meet that process, you can reach out to organizations. You can reach out to content technology, for instance, and we'll help you with all of those processes to help you with your initial proceedings and even up to your audits. We can help you with all of that. You can reach out to us, all of that. So this quarter also complete your 3 months action plan. Phase one and phase two of our 90-day action plan will help you all of that. And then also conduct your first board security briefing. Don't forget, if you leave your board in the dark, they can't help. They won't approve the things that you're talking about. They won't know what you are saying. They'll be like, okay, what's he saying? So you must ensure that they are part of your strategy, and then prepare for annual compliance deadlines. Isaac mentioned a number of deadlines that you should be aware of, as an organization. So we'll leave the floor now for Q&A. Your questions should drop in. Those 4 questions will be asked. If you feel like you want to know more out of them, you want to ask more questions on them, please feel free at this point.
Thank you very much, Nelson, for that comprehensive dive into the policies, enforcements, and the compliance strategies that executive and boards could use at the moment. So now we have gotten to the Q&A session of this webinar. So this is like your chance to engage directly with our speakers and ask questions to get like clarity on any topic we have covered. So please drop your questions in the chat box while I look through them and select a few to ask our guest speakers. So without wasting much of our time, let's go straight into the questions. So Mr. Nelson, please, which sectors in Nigeria appear to be like the most vulnerable, and why, to cybersecurity attacks, to attacks in general? Which sector in Nigeria appears to be the most vulnerable, and why?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So, when it comes to information that people want to get, what can serve them immediately is usually money, right? Usually money. Data generally is important, but it's usually money. So the hackers usually are after the money most times. Of course, that means that by default, you're looking at financial institutions, and then, of course, money is also a form of data in a sense, because, okay, I have 5 million naira. How do you know that? That's because you have access to my account somehow. That's data, or social bank has at least has customers that have close to about 200 customers that have minimum of 200 million. That's data, So hackers want to just go in and go out. The easy method, not having to go through different hoops. So collect data here, collect data, so collect 5 different data points before they now make sense of it. No, that's not what they want to do. They can get it from the very first instance. Then they are good. Even the data, when they get it, most times, what do they want to do with it? It's not to sell it and make money. So if they can just get the money, why not just go straight? So yes, financial institutions are like the first. They are the ones. That doesn't mean that other institutions are not important, but if I can get the money immediately, why am I collecting data? Something called a ransomware, where they encrypt the system and ask you to pay money for the data that you actually own. Why money? Because of course, money is usually one of the reasons why people hack in the first place. So why do they need the money? Take care of themselves, take care of their families. So yes, financial institutions are at the very top. Then we have governments, what do you call it, healthcare, many other manufacturing and other areas, logistics, for instance. So but financial institutions are at the very, very top of it. Yeah.
So, Mr. Isaac, this question is directed to you. Are you with me, Mr. Isaac?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so where do you see the largest gap between what the board expects and like the ground level cybersecurity reality? Did you get that?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
So I'm asking like what's like the largest gap between board expectations and ground level cybersecurity realities? What board expect and what's actually happening,
What the board expects?
and what's actually happening?
Well, I believe that in most cases, the boards are mostly not realistic. I think they are mostly not realistic because, from my own point of view, I believe they are looking for top-notch services. They are looking for top-notch proactive measures. But like Mr. Nelson said earlier, that most times they don't put these measures in place matching with the reality on ground. in terms of maybe the budget required for some of these measures to be proactive measures to be put in place. So I believe they are not in line with what is actually happening realistically. Most times they don't put in the trainings required. If I understood your question properly, most times they don't put in the trainings required for the organization or the staff of the organization to have the proper awareness, and they don't put in the proper financing. I think they treat cybersecurity like they don't treat it like a major challenge. They treat it like something minor. So I think most boards are not in line with the actual reality on ground.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac. So I think we'll take one more question. Okay, 158. So as we wrap up, we can talk about how whether you're starting like your cybersecurity journey or like looking into optimizing what you already have. We have like this roadmap you can use to just see if you are in line with policies. For example, now like the phase one now, like the gap assessment, you can map out regulatory requirements, assess current state, and prioritize risk. Where there's a phase two framework development, you build policies, you document procedures, and you like plan control implementations. And like the phase three is like the implementation part where you deploy controls, train staff. For example, where Mr. Nelson mentioned that some staff would just leave that system open when they want to like use the restroom or like go to the kitchen. Um, People can have access to privileged information they are not supposed to have access to. So this is where like the phase three comes in. So you train your staff and integrate processes that your staff can use. And like then the last phase is the monitoring and reporting. You conduct audits, you monitor your system and report to regulatory. So each phase can like be tailored to your organizational size, industry, and risk profile if you are looking at for more advanced way to protect your organizations. So if you are wondering what your organization can do today and begin this journey, you can reach out to also book a free cybersecurity readiness assessment or schedule a strategic session. The link for both will be shared shortly. So I guess just 1 minute to two. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Your cybersecurity starts now. Stay secure, stay proactive. We'll see you next time. So for like follow up, you can contact our team. Then we can assist you with your cybersecurity concerns. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Isaac. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. David.